two-time All-Big Ten performer, competed in the World Championship, competed for Team Canada and the Olympics as well. Miss Emma Spence, how you doing, my friend? Emma, can you hear me?
Yep.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got practice at 1, so we're going to get right down to it. I know the events you do, okay, and the vault, the beam, the floor, all around. It's very impressive. My first question right out the gate. I am 6'6". I am 285. I want that to get lighter. I'm working on that. If the scale would cooperate, I'd be happy. But I look at the beam, and I am terrified by that thing. So you've got to help me out with when you're learning the beam and how to do it and how you get good at something like that. For me, it looks very narrow, and it looks like it's hard, and it looks like it's a long way to fall. So learning the beam and getting good at something like the beam, what's the process of that like?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, not going to lie, I get scared of the beam sometimes, too. So totally understandable. I think just learning it at such a young age. I mean, I started gymnastics when I was 7 years old, so it started off with just walking on the beam, and then over the years it progressed to doing all these crazy hard things that I do now. But probably just like the progression going to it. Like we start with the beam lower, like we have a floor beam close to the ground, and we start on that, and then as you get older, as you start getting towards competing, you end up having to compete with the beam higher. But it definitely takes a lot of time.
Between all the events that you do, vault, beam, all around floor, which one would you consider is the most challenging and most difficult in your opinion?
I would say the beam is definitely the most challenging to compete because it's just so easy to make a mistake and fall. But I also think the bars is really hard, just like getting to the point of like learning how to do the skills because they're so complex and like complicated. It takes a lot of repetition to be able to do it. But once you master the skills, I feel like bars it ends up being fun.
So you said you started at 7. So I had a daughter who was doing gymnastics for a while, Desiree, one of my twins. She's not doing it anymore, but she really, really liked it and enjoyed it. As time goes along, I knew gymnasts in high school, and they would describe to me, and this is a guy who played a lot of sports, they would describe to me their schedule, and I was like, holy cow, there's so much time that goes into it. I feel like there's more time that goes into gymnastics at a younger age than most sports, at least I think that's fair to say. What was it like as you started at 7 and you build and you're growing and you're putting more time into it? Because I'm sure that's a lot of fun. I'm sure it's got its challenges, its ups and downs. But what was that like starting at 7 all the way up until now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It definitely takes a lot of time. I ended up having to miss afternoons of school from like 10 years old until I graduated high school because I would practice 5 hours a day in the afternoon. So having to take a lot of time to really learn and master those skills and get my body used to doing those flips and things that like typically people don't really do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of like balancing life with sport and gym and figuring out how to get all those reps in, because once you get that foundation at a young age, it's a lot easier to transition or learn new things once you're older. But having that foundation is really essential in gymnastics.
So you've competed for Team Canada. You competed at the 2018 Youth Olympic Games as well. What's it like when you're competing? I mean, obviously, if you're in the Big Ten and you're a gymnast in college, you're competing against the best. But when you start to incorporate Team Canada and from all around the world, what is it like at those events competing against the very best of the very best?
It's insane, really. It's crazy because looking back, I've competed against so many Olympic champions now. At the time, even like when they were younger, the U.S. Olympic team ended up going and winning medals at the Olympics, which is just unreal to think that I competed against such amazing gymnasts. But for me, it was the feeling of representing my country on the international stage. There's really no other feeling like it. Getting to wear the Canadian national team Leo and stepping out and being introduced to someone representing your country and just knowing so many people back home were supporting you and wanting you to succeed is just such an unreal experience and feeling.
So what's it like coming from Canada to Nebraska? Is it like a heat wave here in Nebraska compared to Canada? Or what was that like for you?
Ooh, I mean, it's cold today, so it feels
is.
like home today. There's some differences, but honestly, overall, I feel like there's a lot of similar things, which is why I ended up choosing Nebraska. I come from a smaller town back home, more like I don't know, people are really friendly and close knit, which I feel like is pretty similar to here in Nebraska. The food's a little bit different. Some of the stores are a little bit different, but overall, I'd say it's pretty similar.
So I'm curious. I've never been to Canada. I haven't tasted the food up there. What's different about the food from Canada to here?
I mean, probably just like little things. Like I can't even be like, oh, like this is so different because we have burgers, we have sandwiches, we have like salads, like all those main foods. I feel like it's more like the restaurants that are different, like Chick-fil-A, for example, or Cane's and Culver's, like all of those foods, or I guess chains in the U.S. are different than what I have in Canada, which is kind of nice. We have some little foods in Canada that they don't have here, like poutine, for example, is like the French fries with gravy and cheese curds. That's definitely a favorite back home.
Mm-hmm. Actually sounds pretty good. I'm pretty hungry sitting here listening to that. But all right, talk to me about your head coach, Heather Brink. All right, she's been there since 2019. She's University of Nebraska's 5th gymnastics coach. Talk to me about what it's like learning from her and competing for her and your teammates as well.
Heather's just an incredible person. I mean, the reason I came here in the first place was because of her. I've had such a great connection and relationship with her since the start, especially because she also used to compete on the national team for the U.S., so she kind of understands what that was like for me transitioning into the NCAA world of gymnastics. And she's just such a caring and supportive person that has been able to help guide me through adversity and overcome challenges and also celebrate the wins.
All right. I feel like this is a stupid question because everyone wants to win the championship, but what is the ultimate goal this season, whether it be individually as a team, but in your mind, what's the ultimate goal for this gymnastics season?
You know, ultimately the goal is to win a championship or just to go as far as you can in the season. So that's definitely what we're looking to do as a team. But as an individual, I'm really just focusing on enjoying and embracing my last year ever of doing gymnastics. I'm retiring once the season is done. So I'm really just looking forward to taking advantage of all the small moments and opportunities with my team and my teammates and just embracing the whole college experience one last time.
Well, congratulations on a phenomenal career so far. I want to wish you good luck on the rest of the season, but I'm curious what brought you to the decision to end up retiring at the end of this season? Because my next question was going to be, what do you do since you are a senior? What are you going to do next? But now that you've decided to retire, what kind of brought you to that decision?
Well, usually people or gymnasts, I guess, compete at a younger age and they do retire around the time that they finish NCAA. And I've had 2 rounds of like doing the Olympic circuit now, like those Olympic quads. I was the alternate for Tokyo and then again in Paris. So like I've been a part of that and like gone through that elite gymnastics journey. And I think I'm just ready to kind of hang that up and move on and figure out what else to do in the sport afterwards.
When you were part of that Olympic journey, what was maybe say your favorite part of that? And what was per se maybe the most challenging part of that when you were doing those?
Ooh, well, the most challenging part, I guess, is being an Olympic alternate twice. I mean, you get so close to making it and being part of that team. But as an alternate, you're obviously not allowed to compete or like enjoy all the perks of being an Olympic team member or an Olympic athlete. But I was still named to the team twice and was part of that whole preparation and process to help the team prepare and be ready to go compete at the Olympics. So that was very challenging mentally because it's like I was part of the team, but then at the same time I wasn't part of the team because I didn't get to actually participate in the Olympic Games. But I guess the best part of that was also kind of the same thing, just being part of that process. Even though it was challenging, it was really cool to be a part of and see kind of how all that stuff happens behind the scenes and all the hard work and preparation that goes into being an Olympian and being part of the team leading up to those big competitions.
Well, I'd say you've done pretty well for yourself already. 2-time first team All Big Ten performer, along with a whole lot of other accolades. Good luck the rest of the season. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll let you go ahead and head on to practice. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.